Come Fly With Me is a very strong start to the 6th season of Full House. This is the first episode of the 6th season, directed by Zwick. And as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. It starts off quite sweetly with Jessie and Becky and the twins, and they have long hair now, and Michelle is also there, and the twins have actually been recast at this point. And I don't know this for a fact, but I assume they recast the twins because they're definitely a little older than they would be. They've definitely aged them up more quickly, which I don't really have a problem with, and they are still very, very cute. Most of the episode takes place in an airport and on a plane. DJ has been away for summer for 8 weeks, and she's bringing home a big surprise. So they all go to the airport to collect her. Jessie is starting to think he might have some fans recognizing him, and Joey is trying to find the number of a girl he saw at the beach. Both of those stories just add padding, and they're absolutely fine. It's a decent enough way to bring the other characters into the narrative. DJ then arrives, and the big surprise is Steve. And Steve is, well, I don't want to say too much about Steve just in case you haven't watched beyond this, but I'll just say Steve is a great character. And obviously DJ's big surprise is that she's now in, I guess, what she sees as a committed relationship. And needless to say, that's a big deal for Danny. And Danny is so focused on that he kind of wasn't watching Stephanie and Michelle. And Stephanie and Michelle were talking to some kids, and they followed those kids onto an aeroplane. And it is worth noting that this is a product of its time. This would never play out this way at all, because nobody's getting on a plane without multiple checks and multiple tickets and showing their passport about 600 times. So it wouldn't work like that today, but at the time I can see this happening. And they think they're going to Oakland, California. So not very far away, but once the plane starts to take off, they find out that they're actually going to Auckland, New Zealand. And apparently it takes 14 hours. And needless to say, they're terrified. Not terrified that they're going all the way to New Zealand. They're terrified because they think they're going to jail. Because it's obviously a crime to get on a plane without a ticket. And we find out what happens pretty quickly because, well, they reveal to the flight attendant that they shouldn't be on the plane, but also Danny is able to find out what happened as well. And I think they could have done maybe a tiny bit more with this. We could have had a few more scenes on the plane. But what we got was certainly quite fun. The children have a bit of a sing-song. Stephanie doesn't. She's completely stressed. As the oldest child, as in older than Michelle, she, I guess, feels in charge, feels responsible for this. Michelle's not quite taking it as seriously, and she's just having a sing-song with the other children, which is quite sweet to see. And what I particularly liked about this is they obviously return to the airport and they both go home, and they're both grounded for a month. And it's not the first time Stephanie and Michelle have been grounded together or they've been given into trouble for the same thing, but it's kind of like a switch in dynamic. Once upon a time, i.e. several seasons ago, DJ and Stephanie would have been grounded for the same thing, whereas Michelle, being that much older, having that much more freedom, not freedom enough to go to New Zealand, but freedom enough that she can do things with Stephanie, they're getting into trouble the same as well. And I just think it's quite interesting to see Michelle growing up and kind of taking the role of Stephanie stepping into the role of DJ, and it's quite fascinating. And we have a really lovely heartfelt scene where DJ comes into the room and asks them what they were doing, what they thought they were doing going to New Zealand, and they said that they did it because they had nothing else to do, because DJ didn't care about them. She was preoccupied with Steve. And I think that that's an important lesson there, that if you're getting older, you are going to be spending less time with younger siblings, and it's important to know how they might be feeling about that. And DJ, I think, said all of the right things, and it was a really lovely scene. And ultimately, as I said, I thought Come Fly With Me was a really strong start to the 6th season of Full House. Personal highlights would be, well, the intro. I thought the intro was quite sweet, and then all of the scenes on the plane. As I said, I would have liked a little bit more out of that, but what we got was very good. And then that final scene as well. Looking forward to rewatching the rest of this season, and I'm very happy to have rewatched Come Fly With Me. I was really looking forward to watching this one again, and I'm pleased to say it didn't disappoint. It was as good as I remembered it. Definitely a really solid episode.